8 Palestine activists in the UK accused of partaking in a Palestine Action demonstration where they were trying to take over Elbit Systems headquarters, or at least stop the functioning of the Elbit Systems building in the UK, have now gone on hunger strike. Out of these 8 prisoners, 4 of them are still on hunger strike and are entering day 69 of the hunger strike. Their names are Heba Mouraisi, Kemran Ahmed, Teita Hoxha, and Louis Chiaramello. I think that one is an Italian last name. Now, we have seen similar cases in the past, 9 similar cases during the Irish times. And in those cases, almost all 9 of them actually passed away, ended up dying between day 59 and 73. So that means that we are really entering critical territory where they could quite literally start to die at any moment. The UK government is refusing to do anything about it. The situation is incredibly critical, and a lot of activist groups are now stepping up the pressure, trying to get their demands met. Joining me now to discuss this matter, we have Dr. Phoebe O'Brien, an independent journalist and content creator who has been tracking the case closely. I myself have been using her videos on Instagram to get some detailed information. And you can find her work on Instagram at Dance Hiopai and on TikTok at Lila Lika. I think I messed up those names, but yes, welcome to welcome to the broadcast. And yeah, I think if you do want to correct the name there for a second, I'll give you the time. But otherwise, the viewers can also find it in the description of the video. So, first question first, why are these comrades imprisoned? Because I know that they were involved in the case, but I believe that there has not been a conviction yet. Is that true?
Yes, so all of the Palestine Action prisoners who are hunger striking right now have been held on remand for over 6 months. 6 months is the usual remand limit that is imposed upon prisoners before they are able, like before they've been convicted. But in this case, obviously, like the state is trying to crack down on them and intimidate the movement in general by using them as an example. And they've been held like far past this usual amount of time that people are being kept inside. So you have to kind of at that point question, what are the motives behind this? Just going back to a little bit of your earlier question, what are they in there for? So Palestine Action is a grassroots UK-based, well, originally UK-based direct action group that targets Elbit Systems as Israel's largest weapons manufacturer, which has factories based all over UK, all over Europe. In fact, the city that I'm in at the moment is in Sweden. We also have an Elbit Systems factory.
Right.
So it's a fully global conglomeration. They're utilizing many different territories to be able to manufacture weapons, which ultimately we know have been used on the civilians in Israel's genocide on Gaza.
Yeah.
And the only way which we as individuals, as like citizens of these countries, can have a real tangible effect on the supply chain, like on the logistics of these companies, is to use our own bodies to exact some kind of damage on the actual equipment itself, or that is the ethos of Palestine Action as a group. The actual prisoners who are hunger striking right now, they are alleged to have been involved in two different actions. The first action was a direct action on an Elbit System factory in Filton. So this ended up with the arrest of, I think, 24 activists in total, and they broke into a Elbit Systems factory and were eventually caught in the main production room once they had done a pretty significant amount of damage to a lot of equipment and a lot of drones. As part of the kind of operations that this group would undertake, they would also be looking for information about the company, about its subsidiaries, about its logistical links with other companies in the area. And then from that, they kind of built out I guess like a web of different companies which are all connected to this main central state-owned Israeli manufacturing firm, Elbit Systems, and then basically try to block out the supply chain by targeting, I think there was like, sleep deprived brain, do not fail me now. Because like Raphael, I think, Raphael. So there's various different components, obviously, as part of a total weapon system. So you have to have the manufacturing of the chips. You have to have the people who are going to be delivering this like material and this material. So by targeting different aspects of the supply chain and making it explicit with every action that the reason behind the action is to shut Elbit down, they would always leave like graffiti and markings in the area, which would make it obvious, like, we have done this action because you continue to work with other systems to try and break it down. And the second action, which some of the protesters have been alleged to be involved with, it was the break into the RAF base where planes were splattered with paint. And this was, for some reason, sold to us as some kind of mass national humiliation. And we were supposed to be feeling as sorry for the war planes as we were supposed to be feeling for like a family of 10 in Gaza. Like, we were really supposed to make that moral judgment, like that judgment on what is more harm and what is less harm. And we were supposed to side with the RAF planes.
I think this really highlights a common theme that we've been exploring a lot here on the Eurozone broadcast for the last few weeks, which is that the values and the morals that the European countries seem to protect are first and foremost imperial militarism, and we see that theme coming up again and again. As you're saying, for example, when thousands, tens of thousands of civilians are being slaughtered in Gaza or in other countries, for that matter, it seems to have no effect on the morality or the action of European states. It seems to be of no care to them. And on the other side of that, as soon as you have any quote unquote criminal action, or even non-criminal action for that matter, for example, in the case of Mustafa Yash, simply reporting on the genocide in Gaza. In this case, as you said, Palestine Action activists throwing red paint on an aircraft, not even a human. Then the state cracks down on them and puts them in terrible conditions. And we're going to get into some of those conditions. But I just wanted to highlight what you're saying there in terms of this consistent double moral view.
They're trying to normalize this. They're trying to normalize this, and they're trying to change the conversation, and they're trying to, through constantly repeating this kind of rhetoric or like this kind of sentiment, they're trying to instill that in us and make us feel like that is acceptable and that is normal, and that is something even that we should repeat or that we should like propagate. But I feel like, and I don't know if like maybe this is just the circles I associate with more, or I'm in an echo chamber, I've got my blinkers on or something, but I do feel like less people are becoming willing to accept this line of reasoning, because we know it in our like souls that this is like not morally equivalent.
But, no, I do see that happening. But it's unfortunately, my view is always that it's not the first time in history that the youth has risen and gotten this sort of morality as a center point of our culture. I think my parents' generation and even my grandparents' generation had a similar uprising, but those did get diffused, and a lot of the more hardcore activists were either imprisoned, cracked down upon, or simply abandoned the movement out of fatigue, or moved on with their lives and then became part of the system. So unfortunately, I do think that it's not enough just to have people awaken. We do need to transform it into some sort of sustainable movement full of action.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's why like momentum has been lost in the past, and that would be the reason why momentum would be lost now, is because people are not like you said, like actually able to subsist themselves, like whilst also maintaining their morals or their movement or like their organization. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of you go through a lot of like stress and overwhelm, I guess, like being so involved in like global events and being like having to radicalize yourself to the extent that you're willing to put your own like safety, liberty, career, whatever on the line for like something that you deeply believe in. You always hit that point, I guess, that you just spoke about, where you're like, how am I going to actually survive doing this? How am I going to survive the rest of my life, especially under capitalism, and now we're under late stage capitalism.
Absolutely.
We're all in survival mode. Well, much larger proportion of the population is.
So what we see is, I mean, you get targeted at your job. You also get, let's say, almost diplomatically ousted. I interviewed someone on the Sumut flotilla who said that the Italian government was calling everyone associated with the people going on the Sumut flotilla. So that means the parents, the siblings, the friends, and saying, please urge your family member not to join this mission. So the government is very focused on repressing these sort of actions. And in the worst case scenario, they arrest you, like they did the Palestine Action prisoners. And they, in my opinion, the actions that they take on you inside of that prison amount to torture. So before we get to their demands, I do want to ask a bit more details on how are they doing and what are some of the signs that we have seen of neglect from the UK government.
Well, I guess the whole, well, not the whole, but a big portion of the impetus to be able to do this action, which is absolutely like astounding, is to expose more of these kind of intricacies of the prison system as, I guess, the other end of the continuum of structures of control, which are used on the Palestinians, which are used in foreign battlefields, which is how empire imposes itself upon foreign lands. The other end of the spectrum is how we are oppressed domestically via the prison system, via the policing system, via even, I don't know, like the border system. There are lots of mechanisms which we experience here, and like through their selflessness and their willingness to leverage, their own bodies, their own lives, to bring like international media attention to medical neglect, to like inhumane conditions, and to, I guess, like honestly human rights abuses within the British prison system. And this kind of then throws up questions, I guess, across all like Western nations as to what are we made to feel is acceptable within our own like domestic prison system. Like, what are we willing to put like our own citizens through? Says also a lot about how that state then behaves on the other end of the spectrum. It's like kind of the imperial boomerang. I think this is like quite a good way of encapsulating everything into one theory. But whatever they do abroad in foreign policy, that's like, well, I guess what you call colonialism or imperialism. And when that behavior is then applied at home, it's fascism. So they're kind of exposing this whole continuum with that action.
And I think the imperial boomerang is perfect for this instance. I did see a lot of previous prisoners in Israeli prisons, Palestinian prisoners inside of Israel, who were sending messages of solidarity. There's a huge, obviously, movement in Palestine around going on hunger strike inside of Israeli prisons. So I do see that correlation there, and I think the Palestinians see it as well. And they were even offering advice on how to continue the struggle. We're on day 59, which means that they are in an extremely critical condition.
I think actually Heather is on day 66.
66, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first one started on November
Or
2nd.
67. Like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it is. They're getting really far into it, into dangerous territory. I understand that some of them have been hospitalized. I understand that at this point they are undergoing severe damage to their bodies, which does not regenerate. So this is permanent damage. What are their demands, and how has the UK government responded?
Well, I guess just talk a little bit about the first part of the question. Like, yeah, they're in what would be called under stage 5 starvation. So once again, this is a kind of really extreme mirroring of stuff we've already seen happen in Palestine at the hands of the Israeli government when aid was prevented from entering from March until September, like some absolutely ridiculous amount of time. And that was maybe some of the first time that some actual Western newspapers had to, or like publications really had to impose some kind of accountability on Israel, because this was such a blatant and flagrant infringement on international law. Like, you cannot starve an entire population of civilians. And obviously, like, they are now, like, their bodies are now going through the same aspects of that. I mean, I think a lot of some of the Palestine Action hunger strikers have been releasing statements and things onto either like the Progressive International or to Prisoners for Palestine. I think I saw one on the Canary UK as well. So there are some smaller social media channels and independent media channels which are able to get out statements directly from the hunger strikers themselves. So I think this is a good resource to go to if you really want to like learn a little bit more about like the individuals themselves, and also about how they see their actions like relating to the movement. I can't quote it verbatim. I would absolutely love to be able to like read you out a carefully curated piece, but I didn't think about that beforehand. But they're really they've really thought through this. Like, this is not a kind of like a frivolous. I guess nobody would do this frivolously. But it really is a cry for life, and in no way like a will for death. Which I think is a really, really fundamental misunderstanding in the way that it's kind of like being reported, especially in like legacy media, and then also some of the reactions I'm seeing towards it on social media, which are always like, oh, this is a choice, like It's like they actually don't have any other choice. If they want to keep resisting, if they want to be having any kind of tangible effect on the ongoing genocide. Like, genocide is ongoing. Ceasefire is absolutely meaningless. Hundreds of Palestinians have died since ceasefire. So there is still a reason to be resisting, to be struggling, if they want to continue with that, which is not against the law. It's not against the law to resist genocide. It's not against the law to peacefully protest. It's not against the law even like to do like a direct action, to be honest with you. So in order to continue doing like what they must do, this is the only option for them, because they're in the custody of the state.
Absolutely, and I think that's why we see that as a common practice also amongst the Palestinian prisoners, right? If there is nothing else to do because you are physically restrained and inside of a prison, then the last thing you can resort to in order to sort of expose and start a dialogue with the oppressor is to go on hunger strike, because you expose their complete disregard and lack of care for your human life, and you force some dialogue on the table, which hasn't happened in this case. I do want to quickly read out their demands.
And, sorry, please.
No worries. So I have 5 of them here, which so the first one is end all censorship of their communications coming out of the prison. The second is immediate bail for all of those in prison because of Palestine-related protests. They want a right to a fair trial, including publications of relevant documents around Elbit systems and the British and Israeli state communications. So this is, I guess, in Discovery they would reveal some of these documents that they've been compiling. 4, the proscription of the Palestine Action and dropping of the terrorism connection attached to activist cases. by the Crown Prosecution Service. So in non-British, that basically means the Palestine Action group has been prescribed a terrorist organization, and they want that to end, so that people can show support for them in public. And the last one is to shut down all of UK sites of Elbit Systems and subsidiaries. As you were mentioning, it's not just Elbit Systems. And the last part of that is to have no contracts between Elbit and the British state. Now, these demands all seem to be in line with either the right to fair trial, the right to fair treatment as a prisoner, the right to humane treatment. And the last demands are about the right to about human rights internationally, right, and international law. The UN has now admitted and given advice to member states that they should not support the Israeli military because it is believed that they are participating in a genocide. Not believed, it is it was ruled in the ICJ.
Even at the point where it was plausible genocide, all of the member states had a like they had to act.
Yeah, they had to. At that point, they would have all had to legally. They all legally were supposed to, under international law, cut all military ties with Israel. So, zooming out a bit, why do you think the UK government is so hell bent on protecting their alliance with Israel and not willing to negotiate any of these terms that we just discussed, which are all around human rights, whether internally or externally?
I guess that is a giant geopolitical question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reference back to the demands really quick before we get onto that one. All of these demands are in line with international law. Mm-hmm. And it shows that by not meeting with the hunger strikers and not being willing even to like discuss the points, they are in flagrant breach of international law. But we all know the British government doesn't care about international law, just like Donald Trump doesn't care about international law. As he came out and said, like was in a press conference yesterday, the only thing that's going to like affect my behavior is my own morals. Like, I don't need international law. I don't observe international law. We're too strong for international law. Basically, he just came out with the might is right. So we've hit fascism, would be my general assessment, which once again, other end of the imperial boomerang, is now on the domestic, as we also saw with the shooting in Minneapolis 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Why is the UK doing that? Well, money. Mm-hmm. Like 100%, it's money. The UK's like primary, I guess, global role at the moment, like global. The only thing that maintains global relevance for the UK is that we do a lot of financial services, mainly based out of sort of like London and the City of London, which are two different things. The City of London is like an autonomous region within the greater London city, and it's like similar almost to like the Vatican, where they have a different set of like tax laws, different set of rules, and this is why it's a massive tax haven. And they basically, I guess, sort of clean the dirty money of like massive conglomerations all across the world. And what is the richest country on earth? It is the US. So I imagine we have far too many financial, maybe like diplomatic, if you look at how kind of embroiled some members of previous British regimes have been with the American and like Israeli regimes via the kind of like the Epstein web. I think, maybe that would be the easiest way to explain. I think we share a lot of members of the Epstein class. That the UK members of the Epstein class and the US members of the Epstein class are like potentially even the same people, based off the fact that they like either have dual heritages or like strong links across the different countries and things like that.
So would I be correct in asserting that really it comes down to the classic two, which is money and power? In this case, money being the financial integration that we have with the US and Israel.
Essentially it's money and power. I mean, as Europe, I guess, not necessarily like loses, I was about to say lose relevance, But then I kind of thought, what does that mean in the global context? Because Trump was kind of posturing the other day, or sort of like talking the other day about this kind of like three axes of power or something, where there was like the Western Hemisphere, obviously controlled by the US. Then you've got like, I guess, the Russian Hemisphere, and like Europe's just within that. And then like the Eastern Hemisphere, which is kind of like you've got Asia and Australia and whatever. But obviously Australia is part of the Anglosphere. So I wonder if, I guess this is the call that the upper echelons of the British government are making right now. Completely undemocratically. None of us have been asked whether we personally want to like align with the US or align with, I guess, like Europe and our like geographically closer allies. But then they might have just taken the Brexit vote, which happened in 2016, and most of the people who voted Brexit have died since then. Then maybe they're taking that as like no, we choose not Europe. Right. But realistically, if you were to redo the Brexit vote today, it would be still a very like split vote, but it would be actually maybe not a split vote. I think 74% or something of the UK can admit that Brexit was actually a terrible thing for like not only our economy but our lives in general. But yeah, if they redid it today, we wouldn't have Brexited. So
the connection there, I think, is unlikely to be broken because of all the things that you're mentioning here. But one thing that did catch me a bit off guard. I don't follow UK politics super closely. Obviously, during the Brexit era, I was following it quite a bit. We had the whole Labour government under Jeremy Corbyn, which was quite impressive from a left point of view. It was starting to be very pro-Palestine. I wouldn't say it went far enough, but it was getting there. I can't imagine that a Labour government under Jeremy Corbyn would have allowed for this to happen. Potentially the Epstein class that you mentioned and the financial class would have twisted his arm and essentially forced it to happen. I mean, when he was running for prime minister, they also forced this narrative of him being anti-Semitic in order to stop him from regaining power. So it could be that he would have still been unable to do anything about it, but I don't think he would have. It wouldn't have been out of his own free will, let's say. Now, instead, we still have supposedly the Labour Party with Keir Starmer in charge, who is supervising not only the genocide in Gaza, also doing direct intelligence work for Israel over Gaza with Israeli spy planes. But now also engaging in this tyrannical crackdown on the UK population that are sick and tired of having to stick up for the American Israeli genocide.
Oh yeah, he was also out there abducting oil tankers with the US, and the oil tanker was flying under a Russian flag. So I think Keir Starmer was just showing like, this is the side we're going with.
Yeah. So here's a more general question: is what is going on with Keir Starmer, and has he delivered any left-wing policies at all? Because I also don't see it in the economics. So is this just a complete sham of a Labour government? Do they have they delivered any quote-unquote Labour policies in the years that they've been in power now?
Well, look, Labour hasn't been Labour since New Labour. New Labour was set up under Tony Blair, and that was in the late 90s, 2000s kind of era. The problem with Keir Starmer specifically is actually his chief of staff or his advisor or whatever, this guy called Morgan McSweeney, who is kind of one of these shadowy figures. There's quite a lot of shadowy figures in British politics because we have this kind of interesting setup where there's a lot of people who are in the internal spheres of a lot of the most, powerful politicians that we have in the country, and yet they are completely unelected. But hold like huge amounts of power within our government, like through the decision-making process because of these like very, very close advisory roles. Yeah. So Keir Starmer, I just think that he's kind of a blank slate almost, doesn't really have any morals, doesn't really have any convictions, is extremely malleable. And this was picked up by somebody who kind of had a bit of a penchant for, you know, power, and saw him as a great opportunity to build him, because he's a smart man. You know, he's one of the most like at this point actually like decorated human rights lawyers in the UK. Shockingly enough, I know
irony.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fucking mental. But you know, he's a smart man. And Morgan McSweeney and him have had this kind of alliance, I guess, for several years before he actually like kind of rose to power in the Labour Party. Yeah, the Labour Party has been a sham for a very, very long time. Obviously, as a sort of previously explicitly left-wing party, you can imagine that it has been extensively infiltrated by people who are very much counter to any kind of left-wing economic or sort of cultural movement in the UK, like as one of the, I guess, like the primary bastions of capitalism. We can't be having an actual socialist like wing of our government. So that got broken down through successive waves of kind of like factionalism, intentional factionalism. You had in the years of Jeremy Corbyn this left wing, right wing, like left and right of the Labour Party. Morgan Sweeney and his clique, Labour Friends of Israel, were very much positioned as the right wing of Labour Party, and then Jeremy Corbyn and his clique, because he does have a clique, containing this woman called Carrie Murphy, her husband, Len McCluskey. Gosh, they all have M last names. Sometimes I forget the other ones. I think we can call them the four M's. She also has this little clique who are extremely like powerful within the Labour movement, within the union movement, in England, but have been doing things like, I don't know if I'm even actually allowed to say this on, actually doesn't matter, but taking out super injunctions and things, which is a special type of injunction in the UK, which basically means that you can't talk about it, to prevent the press from being able to talk about their marriage. So like Len McCluskey and Carrie Murphy. And from some of the investigative journalism I've read around this topic, he used funds from Unite the Union, which is the biggest union and also Labour's biggest union donor in the UK, to pay for the legal costs. So I'm not really out here trying to say that like the Labour Party ever, or like at least in my lifetime, has like truly represented a left-wing movement within the UK. But there's a lot of people in the UK who did think that, and they have been, you know, Labour card holders for their whole lives, and so many people have become so disillusioned during Starmer's government specifically. And that's why we've seen this huge migration of people towards the Greens, because there is, like, the UK is actually a left-wing country. Like, the way that our political system has been kind of like designed around us is to prevent any sort of like proper left-wing momentum from being able to gather in like a single party, where that party would have, you know, majority in the House of Commons, and then they would be able to like force through whatever socialist policies they wanted. Like, the British people, if you actually kind of get all of the votes together, if we have proportional representation, which we do not, we have a thing called first past the post, which is like just basically saying like, oh, the biggest party, once you get to the minimum number of seats you could have to have a controlling thing, you're now the party who's in government. It prevents you from having so many like hung parliaments or like coalitions and things, because they want to get stuff done. But it doesn't really work when you have multi-party politics. It only works if you have two-party politics. When we're now in a multi-party politic era. So someone's going to sort that out soon. But yeah, so because of the way that British politics has honestly been designed to prevent the left-wing majority from being able to have their political will met by the government. It's a very messy situation, but this year is different to like any other year that I've seen before in British politics, for real, because the two-party system has broken down this year. Now we have the Greens, we have and even your party sometimes polling higher than our kind of like legacy parties, the Conservatives or the Tories, and Labour, who have basically ruled for the last, like 100, 125 years or something. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I think it's very clear then to summarize that the Labour government and this Labour Party is now has now been outed as a sham. And right before that, the Tory government and Tory party was also outed as a sham. So it looks like the right wing is completely done with the center right, and that's bad news for some of us trying to stop fascism from taking over. And it looks like the left wing is now finally completely done with the Labour Party, because, as I said, from my point of view, I haven't seen them deliver a single left.
I've got one.
Okay.
Two-child benefit cap. So for years and years and years, for some reason, we've been having to campaign our Labour Party to try and, to take away the cap on benefits if you have more than 2 children. So this was artificially, by a pure policy decision, well, most stuff is policy decisions, keeping 300 to 500,000 children in poverty in the UK. Ooh. And just at the last budget, Rachel Reeves removed the 2-child benefit cap. So now if you have more than 2 children, then you will still get child benefits for those children, right. So they can eat. Right. That's the one policy that I can actually think okay, yeah, they did do that.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a concession. It doesn't mean anything. It does obviously mean a lot to the children who are now being fed, but too little, too late.
No, and I think in the middle of the all the austerity cuts and just their complete lack of care for their own population's human rights or people abroad, it falls a bit flat. And just to add one point from my side here, I think it's very dangerous, because all of these center-right voters or even center-left voters who are now disillusioned with both the center-left and center-right, we need to be able to get them back into the movement. And if the biggest representative of the left is a Labour Party that has abandoned any social policy that will better the lives of their people, and instead choose to spend their budgets on imperialism and on supporting Trump when he invades Venezuela and on supporting the genocide in Gaza, then it is obvious that these people will fall for the trap of the alt-right, just like we've seen here in the Netherlands. When looking through all of the policy proposals that we had from the different political parties in the Netherlands, we just had elections a few months ago. When looking through
those,
when I was looking through those policy proposals, it was incredible for me to see that Geert Wilders' far-right party, apart from the fact that he wants to use the military to kind of form this Gestapo ICE force, kind of like they have in America, apart from that point, his policies were far more aligned with left social ideas than even the center-right or center-left. These two, and I know that they never follow through on these policies, and I know that it's a sham, but this sham will work because people are looking for.
I've heard it's the same with Mette Frederiksen's party, is it the Social Democrats in Denmark? But they're also socialists for that's domestically socialist, and then just fascist when it comes to borders.
Exactly, and that's the same in the Netherlands, right? You have the center left and center right party both saying that we need to do austerity.
So it's like the National Socialists or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's across all of Europe, right? You see the same trends.
Are we falling for this shit again? Yeah. I'm so fucking done with healing.
So we do need a strong alternative. Otherwise, we will lose these people, right? And they'll start to vote for these these more far right parties. So on that note, and you did mention the Greens and the Your Party, I think it's still called. So I wanted to ask how is that going? Because I saw that Your Party had a lot of infighting recently. Now I haven't heard from them for a month, so I don't know if that's because it's getting better. And then I saw Greens coming up as a stronger alternative. What's your view on it?
Yeah, so this was kind of a situation that coalesced, I guess, in the autumn this year, where we had Your Party. We had the Your Party conference, the first Your Party conference. Now, I'm just going to give a little bit of backstory on Your Party, I guess, just for in case your viewers don't have any don't know what it is. But there was a couple of Labour politicians, including someone called Zara Sultana, who is she's an icon. I love Zara Sultana. She's the MP for Coventry South, which is a very diverse area in the UK. She is of, I think, South Asian heritage, and she is extremely like strongly spoken. She's like really out there to fight for her constituents, and like her constituents is a diverse group of people, and she consistently, you know, speaks up for the oppressed. She has been really consistent on like the hunger strikers. She's been supporting them. She's been outside the prisons. She has been calling for ambulances. She's been really leveraging her privilege for the liberation of all peoples, and like understanding the responsibility that comes with this level of privilege. So I can't really fault Zara Sultana, and like I'll come to that a little bit later when I talk a little bit about the kind of infighting at the top of your party, because I find it so difficult to like shit on people for doing stuff that I would definitely do.
Right. Right.
Okay, just to like jump to that story. So basically no, actually, it is better to stick with what your party is first. So we've got a couple of Labour politicians that were actually purged from the Labour Party by Keir Starmer. So over his kind of first and second years in as leader of the Labour Party, he was just purging like the left-wing members of the Labour Party. Anybody who was, they've got this thing in the British Parliament called the whip. And there's a whip for each party, and the whip's job is to basically like get everybody in that party to vote the same, which doesn't really seem very democratic to me, but that's the situation there. So she was having her whip taken away from her, which means you can't vote in Parliament anymore for voting in ways that Keir Starmer or the leadership of the Labour Party, which definitely included Morgan McSweeney, didn't like. So effectively, eventually, a couple of other members and her defected from the Labour Party. And also in our last election, we had a huge uptick in people being elected in their constituencies as independent, meaning they're not actually connected to any formal party structure. And they led their own campaign. And a lot of those people weren't on platforms of like pro-Palestine, because they didn't really have a pro-Palestinian candidate in their area. And people were just like, well, I'm not voting for Labour because you guys like are complicit in genocide. So it was a great opportunity for.
And I think Jeremy Corbyn was one of those running as an independent all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, he's been running as an independent since he was ousted from the leadership of the Labour Party over the anti-Semitism scandals, and then obviously also lost an election like in the midst of all of that. But since he's been ousted as leader of the Labour Party, he was also kind of like expelled from the Labour Party. So then he has been running as independent and successfully running as independent. He's very well liked within his constituency, Islington, I think, and London. He's been that constituency's MP for like many, many years. He doesn't really have a problem there. But then, so your party we were told initially that it was set up by Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn and the independents, and that they weren't going to necessarily be the leaders, but they were going to be the steerers. And eventually the party was going to be a real grassroots, community-led, like from the ground, workers' party, explicitly socialist, explicitly anti-imperial, explicitly anti-capitalist, like explicitly a liberation movement for the working class, essentially. Since then, I've done a little bit of looking into it, and it does seem like the idea of this like extra super left-wing party in the UK was actually incepted by one of this clique, which has been around Jeremy Corbyn for at least since 2015, since Jeremy Corbyn lost the election. And it seems like this woman, Carrie Murphy, had been kind of incepting this idea for a while to have a super left-wing party. And I think it was called like We Are Community or something. But yeah, so there's a paper trail of a party being set up even before your party, with a very, very similar kind of like, I guess, like manifesto, or we didn't really have a manifesto for a long time. So I was there through the whole foundational process of your party. It was super, super interesting, super exciting. Most people in the UK have not really seen the founding of a new party. So when the kind of initial statements were coming out from like Zara and Jeremy, and it was all a little bit off kilter, kind of like sometimes one person would say one thing, another person would say another thing, and it got quite quickly inflated into this sort of like, oh, they're infighting, like there's issues like at the top of the party, and like nobody knows like sort of who's doing what, who's doing this and whatever, and then its emanation into the real world like came kind of in two parts, I would say. The first part was the payment portal scandal, I guess. where after the launch of the party, a sign-up portal was put out. So 800,000 people signed up to be members of your party, which is actually incredible. Like that's almost 1 million people off a party which didn't even have a set name, and it was
sorry, but that just shows the hunger that people have to replace the Labour Party with something real, right? So yeah, personally, I am very disappointed that then we see what I think what you're about to describe now, this sort of infighting or even possibly infiltration, trying to water down this explicitly left party. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, but I think like that's kind of the worst part of it, because I've been trying to really find like, is there somebody who is like culpable for this? Is there somebody who I can say like, this is a rat, and this person doesn't want there to be a like flourishing left-wing movement in the UK, and I can't find one.
Yeah.
Like
then it might just be genuine incompetence, which I think is also unforgivable in a time like
genuine
this.
Incompetence or like power hunger, which isn't necessarily like right wing power hunger. Like they're still coming at it from a leftist perspective, I guess. Like these are still people who like very much believe in the institution of unions. Like they're like, it's this kind of I don't even know what to describe it as, but it's like it's the power hunger, it's the will to like dominate. It's this like hierarchical, it's this like I guess thinking different rules apply to you and different rule, like some are more equal than others, like this kind of sentiment is really what's like at blame to be blamed on this like clique around Jeremy Corbyn, because I really don't want to say bad things about Jeremy Corbyn as a Brit. Like he's really been a bastion of hope for me for like many years. And I think that he's a very principled man. He has been like involved in liberation movements like throughout his entire political career. He's been like pro-Palestinian the entire time. So I don't think that like I can, and like he's, he to this day is still in Parliament, like bringing up things which nobody else wants to talk about and like fighting for the most vulnerable people. So he's, like I said, he's very well liked in his constituency. So he is a good politician. He's an excellent politician. But I do think that he's coming because of his previous experience in the Labour Party and because of this clique around him in the Labour Party. They've brought a lot of like bad Labour juju, with them. This kind of like legacy politics, I guess. This factional like smearing and infighting.
I guess also like almost some sort of defensive superstition, right? That as soon as somebody else tries to take power or control you, you get, I guess, flashbacks to all the betrayal and influence that you've had to deal with in the Labour Party.
Exactly. The poor guy's probably so traumatized. He's probably so traumatized.
I can
from like
imagine.
years in the British press and like in the Labour Party and like
then do you think the Green Party is a good alternative, or are you still holding out hope for your party?
I actually like. I think that people are like getting a bit complacent here. Like we have two left-wing options now in the UK. Like I cannot turn around and see that as a bad outcome of this, because I've struggled for multiple elections. Like who the fuck am I going to vote for? Because I don't feel like anybody actually represents my values.
Right.
So we have two options. Like I just feel like people are a bit complacent. Like, come on, guys. We've got like militant left wing, and we've got like I guess like soft left wing. Like, pick your choice.
But the issue is because of that first past the post voting system, right? You would have to consolidate it into one party. So I have a sense that you don't want to necessarily pick a side here, but
we've got 4 years.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes on what's happening.
All right, then I'll leave it there for now. But I do think it would be interesting to figure out which direction that is going before the eventual elections do come around. Yeah.
Can I just really quickly segue back onto the second? I'll be super quick with it. I'm really sorry.
No
just about your party infighting, because the second one was actually much bigger than the first. So the first one was Zara launched a payment portal, and then Jeremy Corbyn was like, that's not the official payment portal, and then everyone lost trust, because you can't be fumbling around with people's cash. Like at the end of the day, we live in capitalism. That's like a little aspect of people's selves. They don't want you to fuck around with it, which is fair enough. Like I'd already paid, and I was like, well, that's annoying. Like,
Yeah.
but it did all work out in the end. I didn't have to pay twice, whatever. I still got my Your Party membership, which is worth it because I wanted to see like what was going on in the app and everything. They have an app. They're doing like direct democracy. So at the conferences, you could like vote on the individual.
Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, I'm a big fan of direct democracy. So yeah, I'll look into that. Actually, I think that's quite interesting. Yeah.
No, it's super cool, and they have obviously like they're updating you when there are like new votes and things that you can vote on. So it's nice to have everything contained into an app, and this is something I've wanted to see in the political system for a very long time. So I was super happy to see like somebody trying it at least. But the second thing was at the party conference. Some people who had tickets to the conference, who were part of the Socialist Workers' Party, were expelled from the conference, and absolutely nobody at the time knew who was expelling people.
Yeah.
But through a little bit of like, I don't know, just like sleuthing and honestly just like watching as much content about the conference as I possibly could. I was in Sweden at the time when it was happening. It turned out that it was Carrie Murphy. It was Carrie Murphy. It was like Jeremy Corbyn's, I guess, like advisor, right-hand lady. I think she was previous chief of staff. And she had been telling the security teams at the conference to remove individual members of the Socialist Workers' Party with no justification, having expelled them via email the night before from the official email account, but not having like left her name on it, so done it anonymously.
Yeah.
And then at that point, when Zara found out like about people being expelled and these emails being sent and whatever, then she boycotted the first day of conference, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, she's such a brat.
Right.
Why is she boycotting the first day of conference?" And I was like, "I boycott the first day of conference," because then it drummed up really good news coverage on a conference which otherwise might have actually like not really got that much news coverage. And the point is they're trying to build a movement so that like really like any publicity is good publicity. So I kind of get it from a PR perspective. But sorry, that was the second sort of big debacle which like spooked everyone about Your Party. I'm just sticking around to see what goes down in these 4 years.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting where the left goes in the UK. I hope your party can figure it out. As you said, it's nice to have two options rather than none.
Yeah.
And I see
Green
a lot
Party's looking good. Green Party's looking good.
Yeah, no, I see some clips from them, and I'm quite impressed. And even my mom was telling me about them. So
yeah, oh my God, what? They made it to the Netherlands.
Yeah, so they must be doing something right if it's reaching that far.
Yeah, for sure. Like Zach Polansky is a super interesting guy, and like a really really incredible orator, because before he was a politician, he was in something called Theatre of the Oppressed, like based off pedagogy of the oppressed by that, is it Brazilian writer like oh my God, I've forgotten his name again. This is going to be my downfall for this stuff. I cannot on me remember names.
No, like, I mean, I'm also out of my depth, so I have no idea who that would be.
No, it's like a very well known. If I wasn't on my phone right now, I would be Googling pedagogy of the oppressed. But basically, the theatre of the oppressed is where you just get a theatre troupe together, I guess, and then you do these like improvisational revolutions. So you role play the revolution and like how you do it, how you would like advocate for yourself and blah 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 blah, and you kind of like role play it all out. So you get to the end and like if the revolution didn't happen properly, then you like go back and then you redo everything.
Okay.
And like learn kind of like through repetition and through like experience like how like different groups would function, and like I don't know, like I don't really understand what it is either. I just like read summaries about it because it just sounded interesting, but I wondered how he became such an incredible orator.
Yeah. His name is Pablo Freire, by the way.
Thank you.
I managed to find him. Yeah, so I hope maybe he, the leader of the Greens is able to get some momentum.
Yeah, that's cool.
I did want to touch on before we end here the bigger picture around Europe. So obviously Keir Starmer seems to be throwing the towel in with the Americans. That seems to be the side that he wants to be on. But just this morning, I woke up to both the Danish Prime Minister and Trump saying very clearly that they both want control of Greenland, and that they will both use the military to.
Oh my God,
get
what are
to
you guys
those
gonna
goals.
do? Sorry, what's the plug on the situation inside Denmark on this?
Ooh,
I'm
so
actually like really
the Danish
curious.
foreign minister, sorry, the defense minister came out
Mm.
and said that the doctrine left over from the Cold War is still in place, which means that he basically said that Danish troops need to shoot and ask questions later. If anyone invades Greenland, they should attack them without waiting for a war of declaration or a declaration of war
Yeah,
or
no,
any.
sometimes I laugh
Yeah.
when like the situation's
No,
really
no,
bad.
no. It's perfectly. It's insane, right? Because he's issuing this declaration as a statement to
Yeah, I didn't think you
warn off
guys
the
were gonna back
Americans.
down, honestly. Like,
Yeah, no, I
like
thought we were
I live
gonna.
in Gothenburg, and this entire city is literally just designed to
Yeah,
like keep you guys out. Like,
yeah. No, I thought we were going to hand over Greenland without a fight, but it sounds like the Danes are quite serious about this,
yeah,
and
like they're channeling the Vikings. Like,
yeah. And the Americans at the same time have gone ahead, or Trump at the same time said that he will acquire Greenland or annex, I guess, Greenland,
mm,
whether it's the easy way or not, or the hard way. Essentially saying that if we don't get it for free or through a deal, then we're going to use the military. So with this divide finally forming between the U.S. and Europe,
yeah.
which in my opinion is coming
Honestly,
way
I'm
too
kind of
late.
glad to see it.
Yeah,
I think it
but
needed to happen.
which side, if there is a conflict or if there is an escalation, which side of that conflict do you think the UK would end up falling under, especially under this Keir Starmer led government?
Yeah, under a Keir Starmer-led government, I think almost certainly aligned with the US.
Mm.
I have seen some recent moves to like, I guess, undo some of the damage of Brexit, but they're all like, I guess, cultural and economic. So like they're restarting Erasmus, I think they're doing some kind of, what was the one I read the other day? And I just thought that is so exactly what Brexit was like. It's the opposite of what they wanted. It was about some kind of import regulations or something.
Yeah.
And the UK was entering into like a trade agreement with Europe where they don't get to vote anymore on the on the requirements or like on whatever the whatever the requirements are to like trade across the border. The UK is agreeing that they will abide by the requirements, but they will have no voting rights on it.
Yeah,
because they're not part of the EU anymore.
So basically entering Norway territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if they can establish a relationship more similar to Norway or like Switzerland or something, I'd be very happy about that. It's more like the freedom of movement, which I think like has actually been the biggest, like, well, one of the biggest. Well, it's been the one that's affected me the most, and then certainly affects people's understanding of reality genuinely, because if you don't have the option, you don't see the world as somewhere which is like a safe place, somewhere where you can go, somewhere where you can experience, somewhere where you can change your perspective on like the life that you've grown up in or the country that you've grown up in, where you can really go out there and meet other people who are living different lives in different ways. And obviously Europe is the closest landmass to us. So it's just so like counterintuitive for like the development of the individuals of all the nations that they would be able to travel with the closest countries.
Yeah. But going back maybe to where we started at the start of the conversation, I think if we look at all the actions of the UK and the fact that a lot of these players that have unofficial or even official power in the UK that are not democratically elected but are just elites in the classic sense of the word, potentially even in the Epstein class, as I like to call them, and the fact that the economy in the UK is almost entirely based on financial services that are tied to the American stock market and the money of the same class. Do you think that then the calculation is that in order to protect our economy and whatever little regional power we have left, we're gonna go for supporting the US in any eventual conflict between the US and Europe?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely, it's giving dying empire vibes. It's giving, trying to like grip onto the last like semblance of like power or influence. And yeah, I do think the decision would be largely financial. I cannot speak on what it would be like, say, if we did have if the Green Party for
Right.
example, became if Zach Lansky was prime minister, because I think he has some interesting views towards Donald Trump. I think he said that he will like engage with world leaders from like a diplomatic perspective, because it would be like, I guess, suicidal in your job to not do that as a
Yeah.
head of state, but is not interested in kind of like collaborating with them on like in any other capacity other than what is absolutely necessary for diplomacy, which I think he's doubling down on harder and harder and harder as 2026 has gone on with
Yeah.
Trump, which from a normal human perspective, let's just leave out the situation of these like world leaders or whatever. It's totally normal to not want to have to deal with a pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to not want to have like a criminal who has been convicted multiple times, who was like almost certainly involved in child trafficking and like
Yeah.
all of these like absolutely deplorable things. It's okay to not want to associate with people like that.
Yeah.
But then also
Yeah.
to understand that like in one of these roles, like as a head of state,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to engage. But I don't think that he would that he would be trying to position the UK as even like harder of an ally of the US for sure. And he also seems to be quite a lot more open to like fostering relationships with like Europe. Which geographically makes so much more sense.
Yeah, of course. So with a different government, it might turn different.
I think with a different government, we could see like different moves on the world stage. But at the moment, under Starmer.
Last question for you here. So if we assume that Keir Starmer is serious about joining this new American-led alliance, which I don't know who else might fall into that alliance. Some speculation is going around that Putin traded Venezuela for Ukraine with Trump. I'm not saying that's the case, but things are changing definitely. And if NATO dissolves, there will be a need for new alliances. What do you think would be Keir Starmer's red line in terms of turning against the United States and Israel? Because it seems like these three are definitely in a pact. For example, would the selling out of Ukraine, would the handing over of Ukraine to Russia, would that be a red line for Keir Starmer, do you think?
It's a tough one because he's such a little rat. Honestly, who fucking knows at this point? Sorry, excuse my French. I think actually the red line would. Oh, I was about to call Ukraine not a European country, but it's not in the EU, is it?
No, it's not in the EU. No.
Yeah, I think from some of the statements of the like political figures, like at the top of the UK government, it does seem that like Greenland, so like European territory, is a red line for them. I think that as far as selling out Ukraine to Russia, it could be like maybe like rhetorically positioned as something different, like some other kind of like sale was happening, like, oh, it's not actually going to Russia, it's going to a private state-owned Russian firm. Like I think there would be a way of positioning that to not only the people but to like the heads of state, that it's not so like cut and dry, black and white, we're selling out Ukraine to Russia. And that could potentially be like absolved, because I think like
because I mean, Keir Starmer and his European allies, which may no longer be an ally, but they've been very, very focused on this Ukraine issue, right?
He's been creeping on like, I don't know, Mette Frederiksen for a while. Like he's been having dealings with a lot of like European leaders. So I think he's still playing the field.
Yeah, but as you said, they might. I don't know if they actually have genuine care for the people of Ukraine.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely not. Like if they don't care about their own citizens in the prisons, if they don't care about their own citizens like protesting on the street, if they don't care about, I don't know, their own citizens who are like working in UNRWA in Palestine, getting like marked also, then why would they care about Ukrainians, really?
Yeah. So it could be, as you said, that they reach some sort of agreement where it doesn't look that bad for Keir Starmer in terms of just flipping completely on this narrative. But in some way they are, let's say in a more sneaky way, they do manage to sell out Ukraine.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely selling out Ukraine. I mean, this is all about resources in the first place. Like Ukraine has the largest, natural gas. And
they have a lot of gas, and they also
a lot of gas, a lot of oil, heavy earth metals in that It used to be an ocean or something, so then it's all just like sedimented into like extremely like rare and lucrative resources.
Definitely, yeah. And I think this is a hard lesson for Ukraine, but a lot of countries have learned this lesson that being allies with countries that are so comfortable with violating international law, flipping narratives, saying one thing here, saying the complete opposite in another situation, and now, of course, genocide in Gaza. Being allies with such countries is very dangerous, right? You can lose that ally and turn it into an enemy very quickly.
Sure.
Especially
you have to watch what they're doing on the world stage. Like anything they're doing to another country, they could do to you. Like you're not special. And this applies at all levels. It applies from the micro to the macro. It applies on the state level. It applies on the individual level. Like whenever you look at an authority figure or like source or government, whatever they're willing to do to someone, they're also willing to do to you. And like we can't be lulled into this false sense of security, like, oh, because I have this passport, because my skin's this color, like I'm safe. No, like look at what just happened in the US.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think we're going to leave it there. It's been a fantastic discussion. I
really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit over an hour. So thanks for your time. I hope you can get some rest after the travels.
Me too.
And good luck becoming a European again. And I hope you manage to do it before we all become American.
This is so true. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and thank you so much for this chat. Like it's been genuinely so lovely to like chat to you, and I also like I'm a big fan of your content. I really love the topics that you drill down on.
No, thank you. And we'll be live streaming more here. It's been going very well on Instagram, but hopefully we get some more people joining her on YouTube eventually. And let's see if something develops, and then maybe we'll talk again on another broadcast.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, that was Phoebe O'Brien from Dr. Phoebe O'Brien. And she has been following, as I said, very closely the case of the Palestine Action prisoners. So if you're interested in that, please go and drop a follow on her Instagram.